Welcome to Age of Empires 2. This is my first attempt at playing hardest AI difficulty. You can see we are on Arena, which is kind of an ideal situation, playing as the Turks. The Turks are an interesting civilization. They get bonuses for their Hussar, are automatically upgraded from the scouts all the way up to Hussar the moment they hit Imperial. They also get chemistry for free, which means they get all of their hand cannons and bombard cannons immediately available on hitting Imperial Age. So our goal is to build up a good economy while we're still in the Dark Age, and then quickly advance through the ages as fast as possible to get to the Imperial Age. You can see I'm starting out building 2 houses. It's kind of a standard build order so far. I'm also starting to move the sheep around and scout with them by shift-clicking around the map. So that's a command queue when you shift-click, so they're going to move to each of the flags in turn until they eventually end up at the last place that you shifted and right-clicked. So I'm going to keep building villagers until I've got 7 villagers on food. That's 1 more villager than we actually need in order to keep producing villagers with the food income. But I like to have the extra leeway because I'm not as good at moving from sheep to sheep. I'm going to keep moving these sheep around, trying to get them back to the TC. Okay, once I've got my sheep moved around, I'm going to take my scout and send it forward. My hope is sometimes on Arena you get sheep that spawn outside of the base, so if I can catch the computer off guard, I might be able to steal the sheep if I'm fast enough, so I'm moving ahead for that. This also gives me some intel on where the relics are going to be though. Okay, so we've got 7 villagers now for food. So one of my next priorities is going to start moving my next villagers that are spawned over to wood. You can see me do that now. So I use a lot of hotkeys when I'm playing. Q is the most common hotkey that I use. Q does the first action that's on the bar. So if you have a villager selected, you press Q, it'll open up the production buildings. If you press Q again, it'll place a house. It's just way faster to press Q twice than to move the mouse down to build, click the house, and then move it back up to build where you want the house to go. If I just press QQ, and then I can leave the mouse where it is and click where I want to go. The other hotkey I use all the time is H. H jumps back to the town center. So if you press H and then Q, you'll keep villager production up. So most of the time I'm going to just click that last one. I'm just pressing H and then Q to keep my villagers queued. My goal is to continuously produce villagers throughout the entire game if I can. So again, playing as the Turks. Turkish are really strong in the moment that they hit Imperial, because they get all these upgrades for free, but they get weaker and weaker as the game goes on. My primary unit is going to end up being a hand cannoneer. The hand cannoneer doesn't receive any attack upgrades, but it starts out about kind of mid-range for Imperial Age upgrades, which is really strong compared to other civilizations that haven't had a chance to upgrade their units yet. So I won't need to use a blacksmith for my primary unit, which is those hand cannoneers. Which I've got a mod that'll make them look like musketeers. So my goal is, by the time I hit Imperial, I want to have 2 archery ranges, 2 stables, and a siege workshop. The siege workshop is going to produce bombard cannons to hopefully take down the gate and open the way for the musketeers. I'm also going to build some scouts, which will become hussars once I hit Imperial, and keep producing those scouts as much as I can. They don't have a ton of hit points, but they're really fast and they can pick off villagers once the town centers go down. I did randomize the enemy and happened to get Turks, so I am expecting the AI to kind of do the same thing, since most of the Turkish bonuses kind of play to the strength of getting to Imperial as quickly as possible. So it's sort of a race between me and the computer right now to see who can get to Imp faster, and then who can use that time to push as fast as possible. Okay, so I'm finishing up the sheep now. In Age of Empires, the fastest way to get food is from what we call hunt, so that's animals. The absolute fastest way in the game is to catch fish with villagers, but since it's usually not available on land maps like this, ideally you go through your sheep and then start collecting your boars. Villagers can hold 30 food from a boar and 10 food from normal sources. So because they hold 3 times as much food from the boars, they'll collect a little bit faster, so they don't have to go back to the TCs. See, as I'm collecting these boars, I'm also touching them with other units. So the first boar that I collected, I moved a sheep in front and kind of touched the sheep next to it. Anytime that a boar is touched by another unit, it will slow down or stop. If you get, if the unit the boar is chasing, which is the unit that attacked it first, ends up more than 5 boar lengths away, then it will reset. If you decide to attack a boar with any unit that's not a villager, then you'll need to hit the boar twice in order to get it to follow you. So if I wanted to lure a boar with a scout, maybe if I'd found a boar outside the walls, and I wanted to bring it back to my base instead of the enemy base, I would have to hit it twice in order to get it to follow me, and then stay within 5 boar lengths of that boar as I lured it. We were fortunate there. I didn't actually take any damage, and I was luring both my boars there, which is good, because I didn't have a loom, so it would have taken, I think, 3 or 4 hits for the boar to kill me. That should use up all of the boars once the villagers are finished. I'm building a second lumber camp here, just to keep things a little bit more efficient. Ideally, you won't have more than 6 villagers on a lumber camp. With 3 on each side, you're the most efficient that you can be. You want to build your lumber camps right against the edge of the wood, without any space in between, because you'll cut those trees as you go. Same thing with the mill. Ideal mill placement is pretty much what I've got right now. So while I've got a small amount of villagers on berries, we can race through the berries that are actually touching the mill, and that'll give us a 1-tile gap between the berries that are left. And it'll give us a little bit more efficient food gathering. Okay, I've got a lot of villagers on berries now, so I'm starting to build farms. We're at quite a few villagers now. It's a little bit blurry on my end, but I believe we're up to 26. I'm going to try to go up around 27, 28-ish. But I don't think I have enough to go up right now. I do have enough. I have 500 food, so we're going up to feudal age. I'm going to immediately click 2 villagers to go after the feudal age. My last 3 villagers are just spawned to gold. Gold's going to become increasingly important as the game goes on. I need a lot of gold once the moment that I hit Imperial in order to start producing my units. But for this interim period, I can get to Imp faster if I got the least amount of gold as possible. I don't really manage the units as well as I could have, I think. So there are a couple of mistakes made in here. Had a lot of idle time in the villagers so far. So with these, you'll notice the villagers aren't actually building those farms yet. I've shift right-clicked those farms, so once the berries expire, then those villagers will start going and producing their farms, so I can make sure to get the berries first. I'm also building my buildings alongside the wall for Arena. So what that does is, that forces the enemy, if they break through the wall, to have to break through the buildings as well. I've built the barracks while I'm going up to feudal, because I need the barracks in order to be able to build the archery range in the stable and the blacksmith, I believe. So I've hit feudal, we've got a barracks built, and the first thing I'm going to do in feudal is I'm going to click double bit axe and horse color from the lumber mill and the mill. It's going to just help people gather resources a little bit faster. Okay, so right now the meta is to build a market and blacksmith. I'm actually going to forego the market because I'm really concerned about getting units up faster and don't really need the market for anything other than the age up. So I'm taking a little bit of extra time, but I'm building a building that I know I'll use later, which is in archery range. Looking back on this, probably should have built the stable instead. Any scouts that I produce before Imperial Age, so if you were to attack me right now, any scouts that I produce will automatically be upgraded to Hussar once we hit Imp, which will be units that I actually use, where right now I can't produce hand cannoneer until I hit Imperial Age, so if he attacks me I'll have to produce units from that archery range that I don't plan on using when we hit Imp and are at our strongest. So that wasn't an ideal move on my part, I kinda messed up. Also, I think town center's idle right now. Oh, never mind. I'm still producing.
Emrin? Usta. 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 Usta.
Okay, so again, shift clicking to kind of toss those villagers. I'm a little low on wood, and I'm a little strong on gold right now, so I don't really have a balanced economy. But I do have all the gold that I'll need in order to age up to Imperial. I'm just waiting on the food to hit 800.
Efendim, madenci.
I could have sacrificed villagers, so not built villagers in order to get to the 800 food a little bit faster, but I feel like getting those villagers in and allowing me to produce resources will help me out later on. So I've got a pretty good economy right now with lots of food. I just clicked castle. We are 17 minutes in, which isn't too bad. In order to get to Imperial, I need 1,000 food and 800 gold. So right now I've got way more gold than I need. So you're going to see me start tasking those villagers off of gold. I don't want to lose the gold that they already have in their hands though. So every time that I task a villager off gold, I'm going to touch the mining camp first. So right click the mining camp and then shift right click wherever I want the villagers to go. So right there, that's what I did with the wood line. Okay, so 400 gold is really not enough once we actually hit the Imperial Age, but it should be enough to get me to 800 that I need for the upgrade. So I'm gonna take my town center and task any new villagers that we produce the gold, just to replace the ones that we lost. But right now wood's pretty important because you need to be able to build a university and a siege workshop. The siege workshop I'm actually going to use the university as just a cheap building that I can use to get up. In retrospect, I don't think I actually used the university in the build. So it might have been better to build a monastery instead, so I could start getting those relics in case this goes to late game. Okay, so I'm actually taking this villager off of wood because I want to be able to build it immediately after I get to castle. My hope is, again, get to Imperial as fast as possible, so there's the university. I'm scrambling now because I didn't plan this well. I don't have any villagers ready to build the siege workshop, and I want this as forward as possible. So I need to produce it and go to the gates. Take my second villager and shift click that so it'll help him build. I'm gonna hopefully will click imp as soon as that finishes building. I've got just over 800 food, which is good, so I need 1,000. And we've got enough gold, so by the time those two buildings finish, I should have enough to go up to imp. So I'm going to spend the rest of my time as I go from castle to imp starting to build the buildings to produce the units that I need. As soon as I hit imp, I need to produce whatever I can and hit as fast as possible, because the longer that this game goes on, the weaker they'll get. Okay, so I didn't stop the last villager from creating, but we queued up Imperial Age already. So in about the time it took to build 2 buildings, we're ready to go up. That's a pretty fast time for Imperial. The only reason we were able to do that is because we built so many villagers in Dark Age. We had a really long Dark Age, but that gave us enough that we could have the income in order to do this. So, I was really nervous when I was playing this, I wasn't really paying attention to the score. I just kept thinking he was going to hit me any moment now. I think I went up to check the scout just to see what was going on and got really lucky because he happened to be grabbing that relic, so I'm going to go ahead and take out that monk. That's 100 gold wasted on his part. I also use Q again. Q is patrol if you're selecting a military unit. Patrol will move between where you are right now and the point that you click. If any units come, then they'll prioritize units. If it can see a building, then it'll attack the building after it attacks the units. Anytime that I need to go back and look at the economy, I'll end up tasking all of my military units with Qs, so they don't just stand around and get hit. I did see a hussar on the right side, so I know he's close. So with these villagers, I'm building 2 stables. That's going to produce scouts that will become hussars in the Imperial Age, but also research bloodlines to give them a little bit more hit points. Because I already know he has hussars, so he's in the Imperial Age before I am, which is not a good sign. But it looks like, based on the score, I've got more economy than he has, so I'm gonna produce a second archery range here. We'll have 2 archery ranges producing the hand cannons as soon as we hit imp, and the 2 stables producing the hussars, and then hopefully a bombard cannon. As soon as the bombard cannon's out, we hit. Okay, so there's 5 hand cannons from the archery range that's already up. I've got both of the stables producing a couple hussar. And we're going forward. Okay, so he's passed me in score lead now. Still not good. He was able to hit him faster than me, and he's got a higher score, which means he's producing more units. So I really need to get this bombard cannon out. So first bombard cannon's up. That was a pretty fast time for the first bombard cannon. I'm going to go ahead and send a villager forward as well, see if I can get my production buildings a little bit closer, because right now my units are having to travel quite a ways in order to get up there. Also not planning very well because I'm about to get housed. You can see my idols in the top in yellow. I've got several idle villagers focusing too much on the military, and we're not actually doing anything, we're just kind of standing outside their base. So I'm building another siege workshop a little bit closer, so that this take the longest time to get here. Okay, and then fixing all of my idols before we go in. Okay, the extra heavy plow is going to help my food production, so I can keep those hussars, which only cost food. I just realized that I'm housed, so here's my panic houses going up everywhere. Again, shift clicking, so I'll start building houses around, and I'm actually closing off that gate completely. But putting more buildings between myself and the enemy, just in case we lose this fight. Wasn't sure how this was going to go. They've got a lot of the exact same composition that I'm going for. So my hussars go in, they do fairly well against the hand cannons. Key advantage here was we didn't make the monks, which will hurt us if the game goes long, but it's going to help us in the short term. I really need this to be a fast sweep of whatever he's got. The longer this goes, the worse it is for me, since I think it's already got 3 blocks at this point. I've got none. The bombard cannons are by far the most expensive thing in the field, so I'm doing my best to protect that and the villager. My villager's on, I think, 3 HP at this point. It's not looking very good. Oh, a little bit more than I expected, but I don't have enough wood to keep producing the amount of farms that I'm producing, so I'm actually taking all of these farmers off farms and putting in the wood, and I'll pull back from wood next time that I come over. In the meantime, I've patrolled in, and you can see I got too close to the town center there, so even though we wiped out the units we had already for the military, because we got too close to that TC, he was able to get me. I've thrown in a ram from the siege workshop that was closest, only because we didn't have enough for the bombard cannon yet. The rams have really good pierce armor, so it's going to be difficult for the hand cannons to be able to take out the ram. He really needs to, kind of forces him to produce another unit, or use the villagers to attack. The ram can also soak up some of the TC fire, so I've patrolled those units in, gives me a little bit of time to focus on my economy and make sure that I can still keep producing those scouts, and pulling those villagers off of wood back to food. At 17 on wood I should be able to support those farms, so I've queued up a bunch of extra farms at the mill so that I won't have to worry about it again. He's rushing up a blacksmith. I decided I'd focus on the blacksmith because I don't have the economy that he has in order to start getting upgrades for these hussar. So if he's able to upgrade the hussar, then he'll be able to beat all of my musketeers really if he starts producing. And I've given him enough reason to with the ram. Okay, so the hussar aren't upgraded at all at this point. I haven't actually done any of the blacksmith upgrades, I don't think. So even though they're the last tier unit, they're fairly weak and it takes several hits in order to take out the villagers. So I'm just going to kind of try to keep away from the TC fire and pick off any of the villagers in the outskirts that I can. I am currently ahead as far as military goes, but I think I'm behind in the economy as far as villager count at this point. but I'm able to keep enough of his villagers in the town center and not farming that he's not able to produce the hussars he needs in order to kick us back. So things are looking okay right now. But he does have 3 town centers to my 1, so again, I have to finish this quickly. So despite the score lead, the longer this game goes on, the worse it is for me. So continuing to push, queuing up as many hussars as I can, just sitting in that TC's about to get in range where I'll be able to sit underneath it, but as that last hussar goes down, arrows are hitting the musketeers. Had to bug out. I was hoping I could stay under there when this bombard cannon knocks it below, but not quite. Actually, musketeers are on the way, but they're not quite there yet. Second TC on the bottom, there's not many villagers around, I don't think. To garrison it, and now it's low enough with that extra bombard cannon I sent over there that they won't be able to garrison the villagers. Got a couple hussar that I'm patrolling in. I'm changing my production area over there so I can take out as many villagers as possible, so I believe the villager count's finally in our favor, and at this point we're winning. But I've got several idols myself I'm trying to take care of. I guess I'm queuing up lots more farms. I'm trying to make sure that my TC is producing again. I'm really bad at controlling the military and producing villagers at the same time. Most of these military units have been patrolled in. A couple of them haven't because I haven't really been paying as much attention. And I find this extra TC with some of those hussars to stall the villagers. So now that I know where that is, I can start moving my bombard cannons in. And I see those villagers heading towards the gate. Thinking if I can keep that gate open by moving a couple of my units inside when they come out, then I'll be able to take out those villagers in their retreat. That should be the game. I'm housed again. Means I can't produce any more military because I don't have any pop space. I'm also way behind where I should have built another TC. It's just been kind of fortunate on my part that we were able to find all of his TCs. His TCs, he should be able to outproduce me economically. Just kept up. Okay, the TC's down just enough that the hussars can clean up the rest of those villagers. And I've got those musketeers waiting at the gate. So I'm trying to move them in now so I can keep that gate open. There we are, so I quickly move them to stand ground, which means they can't move from that position, and that'll keep the gate open so they won't move from underneath it. The gate can't close as long as I have units right underneath. And because that's open, that leaves the way for the hussars to clean everything up. So even though the musketeers aren't very accurate for anything that's moving, that should be good. Spot the mining camp and throw some hussars down there, but those villagers are already running away, and there's no TCs to run to, unfortunately, so those villagers should be knocked up. And I'm sending the rest of my units forward, trying to figure out what else he has. We've got 2 bombard cannons left, and those relics are still giving him gold income. So I still didn't think I'd won at this point, but looking at the score, in retrospect, I think it's over. Just in case though, I'm queuing up a bunch more villagers, trying to fix my economy again. It's a constant back and forth, so throw all the military on patrol, try to reset production of the military with the resources that I have. Notice I don't have a ton of resources banked, I'm always trying to use whatever I've got. So I had a lot of wood, so let's go ahead and make more farms, that'll let me make more scouts. Pretty close to being housed again, which will be the next problem. So I'll just keep cycling through trying to use the resources I've got as much as possible. And that's the game. I've had some problems where achievements don't count if I press return to map, so I'm just really hoping that achievement counted since I've beaten hardest once before, I believe. It was kind of a cheese Dark Age rush. It's my first real one, I think. Okay, so 40 minutes, not bad. His Imperial time is faster than mine, which is unfortunate. That's really what I was going for. So he was still a minute faster than me, and he was able to get more musketeers and mass them. But I had mixed in the hussar, and that's ultimately what won the game. Also had a lot more relics added, which is something I could have done better. But you can see the castle and Imperial Age upgrades are really close together, so the AI was programmed to do pretty much the same build order that I was. But awesome game, one of my favorites. Hope it helps. Love to play with you guys again.